Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna do a one-note sequence lead sound using Vital as our VST, and we're gonna be on Bitwig today, and it's gonna sound something like this. Alright, I think first of all, you guys might have realized I'm using Bitwig today, and I got a copy of Bitwig because of my curiosity for modular synthesizers and stuff. And I have my rack and everything, so it's a lot more intuitive when it comes to modular setups. And I was just working on this project right now, and I thought it would just be nice to share what Bitwig is capable as far as like modulations go, which is why we're having this entire tutorial on Bitwig today. But yeah, regularly I do a lot of videos on Cubase, but yeah, let's just see how this goes. So this tutorial is gonna have two parts to it. The first part is the sound design part within the VST, which is this part. The second part is how we use Bitwig's modulators and Bitwig's devices to actually be able to create that sequence sound with only one MIDI note. So first, let's just go ahead and design our sound right here with Vital. So I think what I did was that I used two oscillators. First one being Vital Sine. And the second one is this one. Okay, so Vital has these algorithms for each oscillator, and we're gonna make use of these algorithms. So firstly, let's go ahead and add a spectral time skew over here. So you can see as soon as we do that, you know, we get like these super good shapes. And then we're gonna push it down a bit because this can get really crazy. And the other algorithm we added was the Formant. Yeah, so if you hold down Control in Vital, you can make your adjustments nicer or like finer. And so something like that should do. And I think what we had was, so when you add the second algorithm, you generally get a slider over here. And then I think I just pushed this a little bit so it kind of offsets your waveform, if that makes sense. And for the second one, we again use two of the algorithms. And before I go there, I just want to make sure I put the randomization down here. So if you always, you know, start hitting from the same spot on the wave. And my phase starting point was 54. So this, again, for the second one, we're going to use two of the algorithms again. And the first one being this phase disperse. And I think I did something like this. And the second algorithm is going to be this bend algorithm. And again, we will push the slider a tiny bit right here. And we're going to bend it just like that. So also on this second oscillator, it automatically routes it to filter 2, but we want it to go to filter 1 first. So they both go through filter 1, and then it's going to feed it into filter 2, if that makes sense. The wavetable position for the second oscillator is going to be like all the way up. So, you know, we get something like this. So let's just hear how this sounds. All right, that sounds good. I mean, you can adjust that to taste. You can do an octave higher, octave lower, however you want to kind of fit it in your mix. But I think one thing I did here was to put this one octave up. So if you hold down shift and then you push it up, it automatically transposes it like 2 semitones in Vital. And so now that we did this, we want to apply our filters to it, right? The way I generally do my sound design process goes like, okay, I do my oscillators and then I do my filters and I try to see how I can add modulations to whatever I've created. Let's go ahead and enable our filter 1 and filter 2 as well. So for filter 1, we're gonna do the phaser negative. By the way, guys, I have to say this, on Bitwig, 4K is supported as opposed to Cubase, at least Cubase 10.5. So it really creates like a really nice visual when if you're working on a 4K screen and you have Bitwig, you have 4K support for every VST, although they get a little smaller sometimes. But if you can rescale them, they look really slick. So yeah, kudos to Bitwig for that. Cubase doesn't have that, at least until 10.5. Anyway, so we do our first filter over here, and I think I did something like this for our first filter. Again, you can hold down Control. So I push this in the middle so you have more notches like that. And then you can hold it some like this. So this is pretty much the positioning. It says semitones, but yeah, that's like your cutoff positioning. And then we pushed it something like this so your notches are like sharper, if that makes sense. And the second filter is going to be a high pass filter. So this is basically just to cut those lows, and you can make some space for your kick and bass in the mix. It's just something I do, and it's just a good practice. So we gotta make sure that this filter 1 is feeding into filter 2, so we can just enable this. And that way we know that oscillators go through filter 1. After they get filtered on filter 1, they go to filter 2. So that's pretty much what happens on the filter side. So now, before we add the modulations, actually, let's go ahead and add our effects to it, because I believe we had some effects, especially distortion. I'm just gonna go through these and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is pretty much the overview of our effects, and let's just hear what we got so far. So you might be thinking right now, hey man, it sounds like super low, like it doesn't sound anything like what you had initially, but it's just basically an octave lower right now. I think we can just pitch it an octave higher and we'll be fine. So now let's go ahead and do our modulations. So for this, I think I have a couple modulations that I applied to oscillators and filters. So let's go over those. So I applied 2 random modulations to oscillator and filter 1. For this one, the one that goes to oscillator is random. I think it's like random on note. I mentioned this before. It's kind of that algorithm that Serum has, but it just says random. So every time you hit a note, you get a random value, and it kind of gets applied. So automatically, when we do our sequence, this is going to be like 1/16. So let's apply it to this first algorithm, and then we push down the amount of its application. And also, I want to apply it to the wavetable position for this first oscillator. All right, so on the filter also, we have 2 modulators, and the first one, they're coming from the same source, but they're being applied slightly in different amounts. So we get even more of a variation. The first one is kind of obvious. It just goes over here. And the second one is something that we need to go through the matrix with. So again, if you can pick the same random modulator, and then the destination for that will be going to filter 1's Formant transpose. So that, again, it's not really obvious where you can put it. Like if you can drag and drop, it doesn't kind of show you what's going on. I'll just show you over here. So if you see this, it doesn't really highlight anything compared to this one, which gives you a bit of an explanation on like what's going on wherever you applied it. So again, it's I don't know if it's a bug in Vital, but like you can't really see where you're applying it. Yeah, we're just like messing around with it, and this is what I came up with. So for this random modulator to work, we're gonna switch it to sample and hold, and we're gonna do 1/16. And after that, we're gonna do sync, and we're gonna enable stereo. So let's just hear what we got so far. Okay, lastly, of course, it was more of a plucky sound, so we're gonna push this sustain all the way down, and then we're gonna tweak with the decay until we get the sound, until we get the amount of pluckiness that we're looking for. Because mind you that we're gonna be using an arpeggiator for this. So let's just check this out again. Alright, so over there I just like put my sound an octave higher. And this is pretty much where we leave our sound design portion of the tutorial. And now we can actually go into Bitwig and start using Bitwig devices to spice up this sound. So let's close Vital for now. And the first thing we want to do is to add an arpeggiator in front of Vital. Alright guys, one thing I forgot to mention in the tutorial was that you just drag a long note on however long you want it to be. It can be, you know, 8 bars, 16 bars, however. I think I just had 1 bar here and then it just repeats itself. But in order for us to be able to trigger the arpeggiator, we need this long note over here. And you just pick this note to be the note of the scale of the track you're writing in. And in my case, it was F sharp. So I just drag this F sharp 1. And that's pretty much what you do before you set up your arpeggiator. So this arpeggiator is just going to run, you know, within 8 steps. And it's going to sound something like this. All right, that sounds good. So now we can actually use the modulators that are embedded in Bitwig to spice up this sound a little bit more. So I think what I did was to change these notes around here a little bit so we can actually get some sort of a groove with, you know, the note changes. So it's going to be a little bit of a melody if you wish. So what I did here was to put some sort of, you know, note variations within the arpeggiator, but also bumped up the amount of steps here to 9. And the reason for that is that it gives you a little bit of more randomization. If you think of Psytrance as like, you know, 4 to the floor kind of a thing, but the amount of cycles you get with 9 steps or 7 steps or 11 steps or 13 for that matter, it's just going to be different. So these notes will get hit on different times as you're running the sequence. So this is where the fun kind of begins. What I want to do is to actually start applying some modulation to these parameters that we have within the arpeggiator. And for that, Bitwig has these, you know, its own embedded modulators. And we're going to use random for today. So once we have this thing, I want to apply it to a couple of things. I want to apply it to the gate length, and also I want to apply it to steps. Okay, so something like that will do for now. And if you want to disable it, you just click on this blinking blue thing on the modulator itself. And now let's go ahead and check the modulator's own parameters by clicking on this triangle thing here. It's going to open up a, you know, kind of like a new horizontal window. And we want to clock this to 16th notes. And I think what I did was to play around with these settings here. And one thing I want to mention here is that this modulator can be bipolar or unipolar. In this instance, we just leave it unipolar. So you close bipolar off. And I think as soon as you have that, you can press on this button now, and you can actually adjust. Instead of from the arpeggiator, you can actually adjust these like, you know, in a finer sense with knobs and everything within Bitwig. So I did something like this. Let's just hear how it sounds. All right, so this is where the experimental part of Bitwig kind of comes in, and you can spend a lot of time here trying to tweak stuff, trying to modulate things. You can do a lot of different things, add a new modulation here, which I'm not going to go through with. But one thing I wanted to mention is that I'm writing this track on F sharp minor. So it would be really great if this arpeggiator stuck to that scale, and Bitwig has a good device to make that happen. So we're adding that device in between arpeggiator and Vital. So it's called Diatonic Transposer. So this is a device, and you can actually, you know, punch in your scale over here. I know Cubase 11 came up with a new feature when they did their release last year. Something similar to this, probably even more advanced than this. But for our purposes right now, I mean, it's doing a pretty good job. So you can do, you know, plethora of things, but let's stick to F sharp minor for now. So this kind of gives you that idea of like, okay, whatever note hits, it kind of stays within in our scale range. So let's just hear how it sounds. All right, that sounds good. And the last thing I'm gonna do is to add some EQ to it. So pretty much just cut the lows. Maybe a bit steeper. And let's just hear it. Alright guys, that pretty much covers it for today. Please let me know what you think of the tutorial, if you liked it or disliked it. And yeah, if you have any other feedback, please let me know so I can put some of it on the channel. And until next time, I'll see you. Bye.